needs to make their own footsteps in the sand and come up with their own opinion as far as what's going on in the world. But, you know, here I am doing it, and I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your information with the world. For anybody that hears this, it's going to be a benefit to them. We were talking earlier today about coupling, and one of the questions I had for you was, how does coupling work?
Well, let's take a look at those things that we talked about. All right, let's jump right into consciousness projection as it applies to coupling. As I said, whenever you're next to someone or speaking to them or looking at them, there's a coupling that goes on. Your nervous system is actually an antenna. Once you're trained in remote viewing, you'll find out that everybody calls it the quantum matrix, the God field, whatever you want to call it, the Akashic records. And when we access that field of information, it's your neural system, your neurology, those nerve endings that are connected through your entire body that are the antenna which get that information brought into them. Question is, what brings it in? The running theory, and nobody knows for sure, but the running theory is your mind does that. And your mind, which if anybody doesn't realize, is outside of your body. It's not the same thing as your brain. Your brain's the muscle. Your mind is the active matrix that belongs to you that connects to the matrix. But the way it connects, we believe, is through the neural system as the antenna. So let's say you're going through your daily routine and there's a piece of information you want. Now, there's a fellow named Rodin, Marco Rodin. He had developed a toroidal core which gets over unity in it. And I was listening to him on Coast one day, and he's got a very eclectic viewpoint in many areas, but he understands a certain part of Pythagorean math. Now, every number out there is basically 0 through 9. And let's go over a quick exercise. 372. The way you get Pythagorean math solutions for 372 would be you take 3 plus 7 plus 2, which is 12, which is 1 and 2, which makes 3. So they would tell you that 372 equals 3. So all the numbers come from 0 to 9, obviously. Now, let's take it a little bit further. If you're trying to couple with someone and you're looking at the way you bring that information in, if you're coupling, first of all, to the matrix, your mind, because it's outside the body, says, okay, you need to know about this. Great, I'll go dig that information up for you. So it takes and reaches out with the nervous system to that field of information. And the physicists have proven that every particle everywhere in the universe is connected to every other particle instantaneously. Not at the speed of light, but instantaneously. So it can go out and grab any information anywhere and bring it in. But the way it works, and if you get a book like Preconscious Processing by Dixon, you'll understand this, but basically your brain works in archetypical symbols. Spiky things are usually mountaintops or things that have a shape like that. Round things are usually life forms or things that are round. You know, a ball, some rocks, but not totally round. And then right-angled things are usually man-made buildings because you almost never in nature see a perfect right angle. So if you look at this and it brings that information in, it'll bring it in these symbols. And if you picture in your mind a baseball, and then on the back end of it, there's a wavy line. On the front end, there's a jagged spiked line. And on the side of it, there's a pointy one. And all these different ways you can put that little puzzle together form a picture in 3 dimensions. And some people think 4. Well, your brain will then bubble it up through your pre-conscious processing before it ever gets to your conscious brain, and you see it in your mind. And it will compare it to your long-term memory to see if it finds a match for those shapes. If it does, it'll bubble it up through your conscious processing as either a thought or an idea. Now, let's say it doesn't recognize it. And by the way, a thought and an idea are totally different. A thought comes from the left brain, and an idea comes from the right, the creative side. So let's say it's not going to match. It'll take whatever the closest thing is. So let's say you never had seen a a reactor system. Well, you might actually bubble it up as a toaster with a bunch of pipes and rods going into it. But that would be the closest thing that your brain could come up with. And then it'll bubble it up through conscious processing, and that's what you would get. That's how remote viewing works. And we basically go out and grab data and bubble it up through the processing. And then we draw pictures of what it is, and at the end we draw a sketch of what the most likely things it could be. So now let's take a look at coupling between two people. Whenever you're talking to someone and they're telling you a story about something that happened to them that weekend, in your mind, you're picturing what happened, don't you?
Exactly.
Well, all that is your brain just quickly, in a microsecond or less, basically took all those pieces of the puzzle, brought it together, and pulled up a picture of what you think it looks like. Might not be the same picture that person is seeing, but it's the closest thing you can come to based on what they've told you. And that's how that works. So that's how coupling goes. And so your neural system, your neurology couples, your hearing couples in two directions, not one. Your eyes couple in one direction. Well, actually, it's two directions between the two people. But there are scalar waves your body generates. There are phonons, which your body generates. Phonons are sound waves. Every time your heart beats, there's 7 layers of muscle in there. And each time it beats, or one of those muscles contract, it sends out pressure waves through the whole body and connects into various different parts of your system to tell it what to do. And they're only just now realizing that around each cell there's an information field, and it may very well be what connects to the matrix. So that's how we connect all the time.
What kind of effect would high blood pressure have on something like that?
Well, you would basically be overdosing on certain kinds of phonons, because you're basically sending out, when you have high blood pressure, it's mainly because you have constrictions in there, mainly because of either plaque that's inside the tubules in your body. And by the way, you have just millions of miles of that stuff. It's unbelievable how many miles of that are. If you think about your hairs, they're a tube. Your body is nothing but tubes and cavities. You got capillaries, veins, arteries, and some of these channels are so tiny, only one molecule can get through them at a time. So it's easy for them to plug up with toxins. And once they plug up too far, the bigger channels plug up and the bigger ones, and pretty soon you got massive blood pressure issues, and all it takes is a little bit of emotional upset to really cause a heart attack or something fatal. So you go out and get yourself some nattokinase and start dissolving that stuff out. Take some food-grade hydrogen peroxide, go down to the doc and have him inject it so it's done properly, and that stuff will dissolve right out of there. There's absolutely no need for triple bypasses anywhere on the planet.
Well, that's wonderful news for me, because that's an issue that I have battled with. I'm taking a blood pressure medication currently. But thank you for that information. You mentioned left and right brain a couple different times here, and I just wanted to say for the listeners, I mean, a lot of the things in our lives focus us on a certain side. I think it's left brain that they focus on, so that in a sense we keep this we're entrapped in this prison, because we're focusing on one side of the brain and we're not able to do some of the things that you're able to do.
Well, there's reasons for that, and there's ways around it, and I'll give you a couple. First of all, you could learn remote viewing. Cheap and easy, and a great way to exercise the right brain. The left is your thinking side. That's the side that does analysis, math. Your creative side is the right side. That's music, touch, taste, smell, remote viewing, out-of-body experiences, all that really fun stuff that I love. If it wasn't for that, I would think that life would be way too boring for me.
And how can people
but here's
work
how you build it. Simple. Get involved in things that give you pause for analysis. Go out and smell the flowers in a garden. Go out in the woods and grab a couple of pine needles as you walk around and squeeze them between your finger till you get the oils out. Close your eyes and put it under your nose and take a couple of deep breaths. And just breathe for a couple of minutes. What that does is exercise extreme amounts of right brain